Okay, I am Christoffer Wolf from the Danish podcast Buret, which translates to Behind the Cage. And I'm here with Cage World's matchmaker Ian Dean. First of all, welcome to Copenhagen.
Yeah, thank you.
It's your first show here in Scandinavia, and then obviously, of course, in Denmark. So let's talk a little bit about the card itself. We talked a little bit earlier that you have quite a lot of local guys. I mean, there's 5 Danes and 5 of the Scandinavian. Is that usual when you go abroad that you have a lot of local guys, that you want to promote local guys to the local fans, or?
It depends. I mean, wherever you want to go, you want to use local fighters. You know, at the end of the day, outside of the UFC, MMA, you just can't bring in a bunch of outside guys and then sell it to a local area. You know, you need a strong local base. That then gets their friends out, it gets their families out, and also, you know, it'll get the sort of more casual people out who may have heard of them as well. So yeah, I mean, when we're in the UK, if you're in London, there'll be a lot of London or Southeast England fighters on. We have a show in Wales next month. There's a lot of Welsh guys. It's common sense from you know, a show point of view, and plus people want to go and fight in front of their, you know, the local areas. Whereas with this show, you know, Scandinavia's been blessed with some fantastic MMA talent, and I think the difference that we could do here that other shows may or may not be able to do is, you know, not only are they going to get to fight in front of their, you know, local fans, but also that, you know, we're going to get to showcase them around the world. You know, we've got we're live online, we're live on TV here in Scandinavia.
Yeah.
We're on TV in the UK, Ireland, Asia, everywhere. So, you know, it's a great chance for them to really sort of get themselves known, and yeah.
So it's also kind of a strategy to go local, get local guys, to get fans in, and they'll hopefully be fan of the sport, not just the local guys, and they'll start to follow Cage Warriors whenever you go to have shows in the UK, and they'll watch on TV, and they'll like get in the Cage Warriors family.
Yeah, I mean, to some respect, yeah. I mean, obviously, like, it makes sense if you've got local fighters and they've got fan bases. Of course you're going to use them as long as they're good enough. Do you know what I mean? And as long as you can match them correctly, you know, you still have the basics. But I think if you ask any promoter, you know, you're going to make the best of what you can out of the local talent you have. And like I said, if you've got a lot of good local or regional talent, you know, you're going to want to go and use it. I mean, you could go to an area. There's very few places in the world, I think, right now where you could go and bring a complete bunch of outsiders to a card. Even if you look what the UFC are doing,
Yeah, I know
in Asia, and even in the United States or Canada, you know, they're going to get guys that are going to appeal to that local market. Because if you don't, people won't necessarily show.
No, and it's no secret, we talked a bit earlier, and as I told you then, when I saw the card for the first time, I was a little bit disappointed. Then I started to think, why am I disappointed? It was because I was just hoping for more UK guys, because we don't see them as much over here. So is there a reason that a lot of the opponents aren't UK guys? I mean, they are Scandinavian, but they're still also this Spanian and some Eastern Europeans, and so. Is there anything, any particular reason? I know you have also shows coming up in the UK. Yeah. Are they already booked there, or?
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously we're doing 18 shows this year.
Yeah.
And we've already had 2 this year. One on February the 15th. We had March the 1st as well. So yeah, there were some guys that were getting booked towards the end of last year, before this date was nailed down 100%. And certain people are going to fight more in certain areas. We've got a show 6 days after this one in the Middle East, and you know we've got guys booked up for there that suit that area as well. Some guys can't make it. You know, there's lots of reasons. I mean, and like I said, when you've got Scandinavia that's blessed with some really fantastic talent as well, you know, you're a fool not to showcase that talent. But you know, on another day, there may well have been more UK guys. There's lots of things, like MMA is, you know, the sport, MMA, you get guys that can get injured, people might not necessarily be available. You know, there's no sort of like one real reason.
No. So we can just take a quick look at the card. I mean, there's a couple of fights that I'm looking forward to, and we're going to talk main event later on, but I'm looking forward to Martin Akka and Tony Taronen. I mean, Tony Taronen has already fought twice in Denmark. I mean, he's a quiet guy, but he does spectacular fights. And of course, Damir Hartvig against John Maguire is also a fight that I'm really looking forward to. And then Mohsen Barrier against Bruno Cavallo. I mean, but that's just my favorite fights. So what, as a matchmaker, I mean, the strategic genius of putting these fights together. So, so what are you looking forward to? I mean, it's the labor of your work.
Yeah, I mean, I like all three of those fights as well. I mean, I really like the Mohsen Bahari Bruno Carvalho fight. It's a fight we tried to put on last year in London.
Yeah.
So you know, I think that, again, that shows you, matchmaking wise, if we can put on a good fight, especially on the main card, you know, it may not necessarily happen in that area. If it's, you know, we've got TV partners as well that want, you know, quality fights. And I think this is going to happen February last year, and Mohsen injured his leg. Bruno then fought Steve Dinsdale and won. Yeah, it's a great fight. You know, people around Scandinavia know Bruno Carvalho, huge welterweight, great record, fantastic skill set, very tricky, great jiu-jitsu, you know, judo background, and also, you know, he's also coming off a loss in Cage Warriors, so he's going to come into this one really, really hungry, I think, as well. I know he's been training in Brazil beforehand, and you know, Mohsen Bahari, I think he's like one of those guys. As soon as he was available to sign, we signed him on a multi-fight deal like Bruno. I think Mohsen's got a lot of talent, so much potential. You know, he had a mixed year last year, lost to Matt Inman in Liverpool with a leg lock, you know, but then rebounded really fantastically in Chechnya, of all places. When you know, when he won out there, and yeah, you know, he's got really heavy hands. He's very exciting. Yeah, like I said, I like the fight. I like to mix it up. You know, nobody wants MMA where it's necessarily going to be like a stalemate, and I think sometimes if you mix up styles, it makes it interesting, especially at this level.
So, but also, I mean, Mohsen has fought in Denmark before. Of course, Damir,
Yeah.
being a Dane, has fought in Denmark before. Tony Taronen, as I mentioned, fought in Denmark before. Having those three, and we agree that that's three great fights, but having them on the main card, Cage Warriors, doesn't that put kind of a seal and approval on the local shows, who has already features these fighters, or how do you see that? Or
look, you know, credit to the other shows. You know, in a day, regional shows, you know, they've got to go out there and give talent a chance to shine. Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, we've signed Tony Taru on a multi-fight deal. You know, Damir's going to be looking to fight for us on the longer term. I know he's really looking to make a statement. Originally, he was going to fight Tommy Maguire, John's brother.
yeah,
But unfortunately, last week, Tommy was injured in training. He can't fight, and yeah, I spoke to him earlier today. He's devastated. But then, you know, John fought March the 1st, got a really narrow decision loss, and you know, he phoned me up and said, "Look, I want to do it. Get me happening." He spoke to my boss, the Cage Warriors CEO, Graham Boylan. They negotiated. You know, John's on a multi-fight with us as well, and you know, 12 hours later, we literally had that fight, and you know, that fight now is even bigger because you know, you've got a guy really looking to prove himself on the international scene. I think we're giving Damir a chance to sort of like go beyond his local region. You know, with our TV deal, with our media coverage, and it's a dream fight for him. Somebody like Maguire, who's been at the UFC, he's been at the top of the sport,
Yeah.
and it's a real tough fight for Maguire as well, because like Maguire's in a situation where he doesn't want to lose to, what he will perceive to be a local guy, or a very talented one. But these guys are on the card because they're good fighters. I'm a massive fan of Scandinavian MMA. If you look back on Cage Warriors, I was booking Scandinavian guys in 2004. I had Tom Ninamaki fight in Sheffield in 2004. In 2005, when we were doing shows at the Skydome Arena in Coventry, I booked David Bilkard and Yanni Lax, Diego Gonzalez. I've always had a lot of respect for Scandinavian fighters because they're very technical. They come to fight, and I think they really appreciate the chances they get as well. And it's no surprise to me that they've done so well. They've got a great work ethic, and it's no surprise to me that they do so well. So, maybe it's because I'm a fan of them that they're on the card. Maybe it's because I appreciate that stuff, and I don't think there's too many other people in at least in the UK that would be wanting to be doing this. So look, credit to the guys for working their way to getting records where they're getting chances like this, and fair play to to the shows. I mean, there are some great good shows in Scandinavia. Superior Challenge, last few years, yourself they were doing big shows, and I know Royal Arena was here in Denmark, and European MMA as well. But I honestly think that we're really going to push these guys to hopefully to the next level. They got the results in the cage. They their future's in their hands, and I do think we're going to bring something a little bit special on Saturday night to the fans here in Denmark.
Yeah. So let's move on to the main event. I mean, of course it's the main event, but it's also been talked about. It's featuring Danish undefeated Nicolas Dalby against Ukrainian Sergei Churilov.
Yeah.
The first thing I started to research on Churilov, and once I got a little bit into it, I thought, has he in the end lost it, or does he know something about Churilov that I don't?
Mm.
So just which one is it, or is it something in between?
I don't know. Depending who you speak to. I'm sure there's people out there that think I've lost it way before this, but you don't always get. Nothing's ever perfect in life in general. In MMA, especially, MMA is a really cool sport. It's a tough sport. Respect to the guys who are in there. They train hard. They work hard, and you've also got to make the most of opportunity. And Sergei right now has an amazing opportunity. He's 15-1, and there's been a lot made. I know domestically here in Denmark that he doesn't deserve that, and like you said, he hasn't beaten quality opposition. Maybe in the run up, and yes, he has a loss to a bigger Trusek who Nicolas has defeated twice. But then MMA math, it doesn't necessarily. Too many people get caught up in statistics. End of the day, Sergei's a very dangerous fighter. He fought on Cage Warriors in 2012, and bang, he pulled out a leg lock and game over. Those guys at Combat Drogo, they're very tough. They're really well rounded. I think standing, he's gonna could well swing for the fences. He's not going to come here to get just to lie down. And he's deadly on the floor. And also the funny thing is as well is that here in Denmark, Nicolas is really well respected, but then outside of Denmark, I know in England a lot of people have gone, well, who is this guy? And we've had a documentary out this week on him. This is his, I hate talking in cliches, but this is his coming out party. This is Nicolas's chance to really sort of hammer home his potential as well to people that don't necessarily know him. And I don't think he's been very well promoted before. I've tried to watch his fights on other promotions, and they've been geo-blocked. You can't watch it outside. It's not online, and You know, he fought Trusek twice. Why? Because, well, there were pull-outs and like the promoters couldn't get people. You know, and trust me, like we've tried really hard to get people to fight, and we had a couple of injuries, and on other people. You know, we've got a very strong welterweight roster as well.
Yeah, but I know we had Nicolas earlier, I think 2 weeks ago on our podcast, and he also told me that, you know, it wasn't only Churilov he was offered. He was offered 2 or 3 others opponents.
Yeah. And they never turned anyone down.
No,
it's just that, like I said, circumstance. You know, there was injuries, and you know, like I said, you don't necessarily get what you want, but you make the best of what you have. And I think what we've got is a legitimately dangerous contender, or 2 dangerous contenders for this title right now in Nicolas and Sergei. And I think it'd be an interesting fight. And I think people who think that, like I said before, the Ukrainian's going to come here, lay on his back and die, they're really sadly mistaken.
Yeah, but also when I start to look at it, I was looking at through your welterweight roster, and there are other fighters that would be, for me, obvious opponents to Nicolas, but I can't remember which just fought. But I mean,
I can tell you now. I mean,
what was Danny Roberts?
Yeah.
He just fought.
He just fought. Like I said, I mean, I can explain it for you dead easy. I mean, Danny Roberts fought on February the 15th. He went the distance. We had Matt Inman, who beat Mohsen Bahari. He was he's fighting on he fought February the 15th. I already had Mohsen and Bruno Carvalho booked. I didn't want to break that contract. I've also got Danny Roberts and Matt Inman due to fight different opponents on May the 3rd in Liverpool, where they're quite close to. Jack Mason was signed already to fight Benny Alloway on March 1st. You know, and we've recently signed Jim Warhead. And I wanted Jim to fight on this date as well, but Jim's contracted elsewhere. So, you know, I looked round, and you know, I could have brought over an American, a generic American, and sold him as like this coming invader, you know, Beady Yank, it's really great. But then at the end of the day, would just a generic American or a generic, even an ex-veteran of another show, have any more appeal? Not really. Not if they've got like if we're going to base things on records and opponents. You know, right now, the way I look at it, Nicolas has got a tough guy in front of him, and if he wins, yeah, there's some other tough fights right now in this division. That also we've got Galgamon, the former Cage Warriors welterweight champion, who's at the minute injured, but you know, I know he's going to be gunning for the winner of this fight. And like you said, you know, on May 3rd. We've got some people, and also we've signed Simeon Forrester, but Simeon couldn't do this date either. So, like I said, you know, I can see why people criticise the fight, but you can't force people to fight, and at the same time you can't. There's other factors, but I do honestly believe that this fight it's a tough fight for both guys.
Yeah, but then again, that's just the fight and the circumstance of putting Churilov against Dalby. But what was the motivation of making it into a title fight? I know Pendred left, but you didn't have to make this a title fight. You could just have waited another show, or but was there any specific reason, or was it just we need a new champ and we'll take the best fighters that are available for this show? Or
well, like I said, there was a lot of talk before this, and there was obviously other people that we've just spoken about, like possibly those things didn't work out. For me, why not? I was a fan of Nicolas for a while. I wanted Nicolas on Cage Warriors for a long time. You know, I worked with his coach, his manager, you know, and we've had a long working relationship. Like I said, we had Kenneth Russell on before. You know, he was a champion at Cage Warriors, so you know we've got a working relationship. You know, with two, and he's a great guy, and Nicolas is 11-0. You know, he's people say he's one of the best welterweights in Europe, so why not? You know, and we've got a guy who's fought in Cage Warriors before now. He's 15-1, you can't argue statistics one point and say you can't do this because of statistics, and then turn around and say, well, they criticise this. Do you know what I mean? For me, this is also a chance for somebody to win it. We're going to give a legitimate contender a chance to win a title in front of his hometown fans, which is also going to expose him to a worldwide audience. There's a lot more than meets the eye to this, and people have sometimes got to just dig through. It's got to dig through the surface to see why this is happening.
Yeah. Because one of the things that I was thinking is that, okay, we take first time in Scandinavia. You're outside UK. We'll bring an undefeated Dane against the 15-1 Ukrainian guy. Let them fight for the title. I mean, UK fans, they can think whatever they want. The winner will be brought into UK, fighting a UK fighter for the title. If he loses, no problem. The UK fans will be pleased, and they have a UK fighter as a champ. Otherwise, if the winner of Dalby and Churilov wins over the UK guy, I mean, he will be legit for the UK public as well. I mean, so for me, that was a possibility. I don't know if that was the reality.
Well, no. I mean, like I think with a title fight, it doesn't necessarily have to be in an area. Do you know what I mean? Like we Galgamon beat Jesse Taylor for the welterweight title in Bahrain. I mean, do you know what I mean? We've had people fight for titles. We had Jim Allers defend his Cage Warriors featherweight title in Scotland against a Finn, in Wales against Martin Svensson. Do you know what I mean? So you don't, for a title, it doesn't, you didn't have to just bring a UK guy in. I want to. These belts mean a lot. If you look at the lineage of the Cage Warrior champions, going back nearly 10 years. We had a show once where we had 9 title fights, and you look at where those guys like Martin Kampfman, Monson, Antonio Silva, Dan Hardy, it's guys like Danny Batten, and there's I could wheel off their names all day. Those guys that fought around the world afterwards. So these titles mean a lot. We're not just going to go and gift it to somebody, because the legitimacy of your promotion depends, I think, as well on your champions. If you're just going to go and give your titles to your mates or to other people, then you're making a mockery of everything. And so yeah, that's like I said, we're not just going to go and bring in UK guys or sit and think, oh, okay, well, if Nicolas wins this, we'll go and get a UK guy, because a UK guy might not fight for it next. You know what I mean? And like I said, there's already a bunch of fights already planned for May. Like I said, we've got Gumon waiting as well, and we're going to see what's going to happen Saturday. Myself and Graham Boyle and my boss, we'll talk, and we'll make decisions, and we'll go from there.
So, it's no surprise. I think Nicolas is going to win. So, obviously we don't know yet. The fight isn't until Saturday, but say he wins.
Mm-hmm.
I believe he does, but just say he wins. Yeah. Then he'll be 12-0, Cage Warriors champion, and then we have UFC going to Berlin in May. I mean, he might just only be an injury away from going to the UFC, unless you have exclusive contracts for multiple fights. I don't know that. I don't know if you're allowed to say. But otherwise, he might just win this fight and then move on to the UFC.
Maybe.
Okay,
maybe. I mean, I'm not psychic. I mean, I don't really want to talk about what's going to happen on this day. I mean, you mentioned May. I think May would be a bit too soon unless there was like an injury. I think the more logical step, and I'm not Joe Silva, I'm not UFC, but I guess would be the Scandinavian show whenever that is. But then, why do you have to run into the UFC? The kid's still young. Say he wins. If either guy wins, there's still fights out there, and this sport is littered with people who went to the UFC too soon, or went to stateside too soon with other shows, and have come back broken. Learn your trade. There are still legitimate fights for either guy right now on the European circuit. You don't necessarily need to bring Americans in. You don't need to send them away to other shows. There's fights here. You know, there's fights here that are going to bring in box office, that are going to get people interested in TV, and it's going to build their skill set as well. Because you know what, like, if you're the champ, yeah, you know, surely you're going to want to defend that belt. Surely you're going to want to, like, prove that, you know, that you're the best around. And like I said, you don't need to rush elsewhere. And I think we're giving guys a platform where, you know, if they want to, they can really just, they can not only build their skill set, get a better fighter, but you know, can also get more attention for themselves. You know, if you have a look at Copenhagen, and yes, I know he's gone, maybe, I don't know, where else, do you know what I mean? But, you know, he spent a lot of time in Europe building his trade. You know, he beat Bill Coben, he beat Bruno Carvalho, and he was getting so much attention from those fights. You know what I mean? Much more attention than, say, someone, I honestly, someone who was languishing in the bottom of a prelim card somewhere else on a bigger show. You know what I mean? So that's my take on it.
Yeah. But also, now talking about promoting the fighters and keeping them within Europe, you just released a documentary on Dalby. I think it was a 50 minutes documentary. So I mean, you're investing in them, promotion. So on the website there was just a short interview with Churilov. I mean, are you unintentionally believing that Dalby will win? Or is it just coincidence?
Well, you know, there's a lot of political unrest at the minute in the Ukraine.
Yeah.
The Ukraine's not the easiest place to get to.
Probably not.
I mean, that's a fair question, but then I don't think some people, again, like, unless you work in the industry, it's not necessarily easy to go and send somebody over to the Ukraine, you know, and then get translators and then and do that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, we're also promoting the show here in Denmark.
Yeah.
You know, to the Danish people. So that made a lot of sense, and obviously, you know, we couldn't send Sergei here any earlier than we have, because obviously he needs to get a visa to go into the European Union, as you know. So, you know, I mean, before we have done videos on people on two different sides, but you know, this occasion that's how it planned out, you know, and like I said, whoever wins, you know, we've got plans, you know, and if Sergei wins, you know, it's going to, you know, put his name up in lights. People are going to start taking interest, and you know, like I said, there's no shortage of contenders out there right now.
No.
But I mean, I can understand why people are saying that, but like I said, it's like people are sometimes quick to criticise, but you know, don't really delve into why things happen the way they do, you know.
No, but I mean, that's why we want to talk to you. Me personally, I just want to hear the explanation.
Yeah.
I'm not here to criticize.
No,
I'm here to ask the question. So, but otherwise, I mean, it was really interesting talking to you, to get a little behind the scenes and get into the engine room of Cage Warriors. So I'm looking forward to the show on Saturday, especially the 3 fights that we talked about, but also to see who the new welterweight champ will be. So really nice talking to you, Ian.
Thank you very much.
And I hope to get a chance to talk to you again, maybe after the show, or next time you're in Copenhagen.
Okay, thank you very much.
Bye.
Cheers.